In this video, I'm going to give you an introduction to how to work with GitHub in just a very basic way by walking through setting up a sandbox repo, making some commits, pushing them, and seeing them update here on GitHub. So as a review, GitHub is the platform. It's a hosting area, if you will, where you can put up all your projects and code, but it runs on the Git technology. So Git is sort of the precursor. That's kind of the backbone of everything that's working here. So we're going to create a repo on GitHub. We're going to clone it to our local computer. That's a Git thing, cloning. And we're going to add commits. That's a Git thing. And then we're going to push it back up to GitHub. That's a Git thing as well, but now it's going to be back up on GitHub as opposed to being just on our local computer. And since it's on GitHub, we can share it with others, including teammates, as well as potentially letting people look at your code as a part of your application process for jobs. So you want to think about what you do here in terms of being professional and presenting yourself like you would on LinkedIn or something else like that. Okay, so you can see I've got a number of repos set up here, but to add a new one, you go up to the upper right and click on New Repository. Doesn't take much to get this set up. You do need to make sure that you give it a unique name. So I'm going to give mine the name Sandbox Corner Bakery. Okay. I'm going to create a description, something like Sandbox site for demonstrating setup in GitHub. But you would want to put whatever would be sort of professional and nice here for your own projects. At current time, public and private repos are free right now. It used to be that private accounts were you had to pay for them, and that may change in the future. So while you're working on something, it's totally fine to make it private, but don't forget, if you ever want to share it as something for prospective employers to look at, you're going to want to switch it back to public so that people can get to it. Another nice thing is to use a README. This is like a little instruction sheet for what your repo is, and it is always considered a good practice to have a README. You can also choose to have a git ignore created, and you can even indicate what license you want to use. If you don't know any more about those things, just leave all the default nones selected there. We create our repo, and now we have a shell for the Sandbox Corner Bakery. You can see that all that's in it right now is this readme.md. That's a markdown file, which you can explore more. It's a very helpful tool. Markdown, that is. You can edit this right here in GitHub. You can add files right here in GitHub. But what I really like to do is go ahead and get this set up as a clone locally on our own machine so we can work there, make commits locally, test them out locally, and then push them up to GitHub later when we're ready. So to do that, you want to first make sure that you've installed GitHub Desktop. Provided a link for that, or you can just Google it. It also walks you through that if you haven't done it yet. You can run it here. So I have it ready. I'm just going to click Open in Desktop and confirm that. Now notice that what's pulled up here is I'm over in GitHub Desktop, and it's asking me where I want to put this on my computer. So this is very important to note where this is going to go. I want to put it inside of my sites folder that we set up earlier, inside of my portfolio folder, and I'm actually going to replace this Corner Bakery folder that I created earlier with this new repository folder. So I'm going to just choose that, and you notice that inside of portfolio there, it is then naming or adding a folder that matches the name of the repo. Okay, so keep that in mind. I should have said that earlier. When you're naming your repo, that you name it in a way that matches the kind of folder that you want to have. You've got to find a middle ground between having the folder name that you want, but also having the name of the repo that you want. It's usually pretty straightforward, but there we go. We've cloned it, and now we can see that if we open that project over here in Atom, add project folder, pointing to our portfolio, Sandbox Corner Bakery, all we have in there is the README file. Okay, good. So now what we want to do is actually make some changes by adding our initial files. So I'm going to drag, actually let's do this in Finder so you can see how that works. Over here I'm going to grab all these files and drag them over here into the Sandbox Corner Bakery folder instead. Okay, so they moved over here. I now see them, and look how they highlighted green. That's because we have Git as a plugin installed here in Atom, And that means it's going to highlight any new files that we added by making them green. So it's showing us, hey, you made some changes here. These are all new files. So if we've made some substantive changes, maybe we should go commit those changes. So we switch back over here to GitHub desktop where, oh, look, it's recognized and showed us all these new files that we've added. Okay, we can click on them and see that they're all completely new files. They've got that green plus, which means the entire file is brand new. Well, that's great. So I want to go ahead and commit these. I've got changes that I want to make, but before I get in and work on those changes, I'm actually going to commit them so that they're part of my repo and they're ready to go. All right, so I'm going to make a message here. Let's say initial files. You can add more details here. It's good to keep your commit, your main commit really brief, like add initial files or something like that. So I'm going to say added initial files. And that's it. So I'm going to click commit to master. Now what that means is it's telling me, reminding me what branch I'm on, which I'm on my default master branch. I haven't created any other branches yet. So it's always nice to just think before you click that commit button, is that indeed what I want to do? Do I want to put these on master? Because it may be that you want to put them on a different branch, which we'll get into later. I'm fine with master for now, so I'm going to click commit. And there they are. Now, notice that my little button up here shows that I have one new commit that I can push to origin. Origin is another name for the central location for the repository, which is GitHub in this case. So I could push those changes up. In fact, I will, so I can show you how that works. So they're uploading to GitHub. Okay, and now back over here in GitHub, if I refresh, you will see, oh, there are all my files. They're up here on GitHub now. And I have two commits. We can go back and see that the initial commit is the one that added the README when we created the repo. And the one that we just did is the add initial files, where you can click on it. You can see here all the stuffs that we added. Yippee! Isn't that fun? Okay, good. So now let's make some changes and see Git at work with just some changes. So maybe we want to tighten up the README here by changing this to Sandbox Corner Bakery. Sandbox Cipher set up on GitHub. More coming soon. Okay, so I've just made some quick little changes to the README. All right, what else do I want to do in terms of some like basic tidying? Let's see. Maybe I just want to do a little word changing to our orders. There we go. Maybe I want to make a little bit of a style change. I noticed that this wasn't in quotes. Maybe I want to add those quotes. Maybe I want to replace all of my single quotes with double quotes. So I'm going to copy that and I'm going to go to Edit, Find, and Replace. I think it's also Find. Here it is. Find in project. Nope, I don't want to do that. I want to find in the file. So find all. Find all. Okay. Okay, gosh, this is, I think I just usually use the Command F key. There, should have done that to begin with. Okay, so I'm finding all single quotes, replacing them with double quotes. So if I click Find All, it's gone through and highlighted those for me, which maybe it's just those few at the top. Looks like I have single quotes everywhere else. I can also step through them, find one at a time by clicking Find. And I can place the one that's currently selected, or I can do Replace All to replace them all. Okay. Anyway, I changed some quotes there. Let's see. Maybe I decide that I want to replace all of the whites with the hex code for white, which there was just the one. And another practice that I've been into is to use all lowercase letters. Anytime you have letters in your hex code name. So I'm going to find all, looks like we found 4 of those, and we'll replace them all. Ooh, I think the sun went behind the clouds. Okay, so we've made some changes, and I've saved my files. Now if I switch back over here to GitHub desktop, check it out. It's recognized that I made changes to these 3 files, and it's highlighting for me that it basically looks at this as that I deleted that line, and I added this line, which, you know, we know that it's really just a wording change, and it's actually even highlighted that, where it's kind of seen that what you did was added some letters between the old O and R. So that's kind of fun. If I look at the README, you can see that it thinks that I deleted those 2 lines and added these lines, which is fine. And if I go to styles.css, you can see a bunch of changes are made. So the red is always the previous thing, and green is always the new thing. So if you just remove something, let's say we just remove reset.css. Oh, I guess I made some changes nearby, so that doesn't really work. Let's say we delete this whole allergy strong. Okay, so and let's say that we also didn't have that. Okay, so it shows up as just being removed. There's no green bar nearby because all we did was remove. Likewise, if all we do is add something like a hover color red, it will only show the green. Okay, so usually when you add something, you see the green. When you delete something, you see the red. And if you've made a change, you'll see red and green right next to each other. So that's pretty slick, huh? This is Git, and this is making life wonderful because we can see every little bit of change that we have made. Okay, so I don't want that one. I'm going to delete that, but all the other changes I have here I like. Okay, so maybe I'm going to take a break. Maybe this is sort of the end of a certain thought in terms of kind of refactoring colors or doing some basic cleanup. So I'm going to type a commit message for this, basic cleanup, double check my spelling and which branch I'm going on to. Looks good, so let's commit to master and push to origin. Okay, you don't have to push after every commit. You could make several commits and then push, 3 or 4 of them up at once. Doesn't really matter. The key is whenever you're ready to kind of publish those changes up to GitHub so that they're available for others to see, then that's when you would publish them. Okay, so now notice I haven't refreshed yet, and if we go and look at the styles.css, it looks the way it did. Oh, actually, I think it auto-refreshed because I'm seeing the new thing, so I think it auto-refreshed. So never mind the point I was going to make there. Okay, so there is an overview of Git, and there's a lot more to get to know about it, which we'll cover in future videos.